Musical theater.
The good,
the bad,
and the ugly.
Hi guys, and welcome to the very first video episode of Musical Theater, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Woo!
If you're listening to us through audio apps like Spotify and things like that, we now have a YouTube channel called Musical Theater, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, the podcast, where you can come listen and view us as well. Disclaimer, unlike the audio you've been listening to, which is organized and put together and sounds really well, our YouTube videos will be very unedited, unorganized, and very ADD driven. So if you're okay with that, come watch us on YouTube. And for those of you watching YouTube, I look like a disaster today. That is because it monsooned on me the entire way home from the bus stop.
If you're watching our YouTube, subscribe to our channel and like the video.
And for those of you who have no clue what's going on, I'm Taylor.
I'm Jen.
I'm Amanda.
And we are here to talk to you about musical theater.
Or at least try.
Well, yeah, we'll try our best. Today...
Yeah, it's very unedited, so we might go off on tangents about cats, about chocolate, you know.
That's what you get when you come to YouTube.
It's
if that's a
usually
little
my fault.
much for you, if that is a little much, stay right here on Spotify where I'll take the time to edit it down to a minimum that actually makes sense.
It's usually my fault.
Or my fault, honestly. The two of us. Taylor glares at us.
That's the reason why she's Buttercup.
Yes, exactly. If we were the Powerpuff Girls, I would be Buttercup, Jen would be Blossom, and Amanda's would be Bubble.
Amanda
would be Bubbles. So today's topic is musicals that never made it to Broadway that all of you need to go check out right this minute. Now, before we get started on all the choices that we came up with, we each came up with a couple to talk about. We just have to complain about the very popular two that most people know about that somehow have still not made it to Broadway. That would be Heather's and The Last 5 Years. Who wants to complain first?
Heather's was on Broadway, or off Broadway rather, in 2014, and it took them until 2019 or 2018 to put it on the West End. And I love the rewrites they did of it. I'm not going to complain about that. Their new songs are freaking fire. But yeah, bring it to New York. Please. I don't want to buy a ticket for the UK tour. I want to buy a ticket for the US tour.
Oh yeah.
You know.
It is so good. I don't know why they're not bringing it to Broadway.
I don't know. There wasn't any drama with the show as far as I'm concerned. So
no, it's
only minor drama that I know about that no one else. It's like the location specific for me.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to say where it is or anything. But there was an issue at my local high school of why they will never perform it in my town ever again.
Yeah.
Not going to say where it is because obviously
safety issues.
But they won't, because of some themes in the show, they're not going to perform it at any theater around where I live, just to be a little sensitive to what happened.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to know what happened, you can message me, but please, I'm not going to say it here.
Yeah.
Perfectly fine. Yeah, I can't think of a reason why that would not be on Broadway. The other one I'm complaining about is The Last 5 Years, which they made the movie with Anna Kendrick and everything. And the only reason I've heard that one not being on Broadway, because these are both very popular musicals that most people know of their existence.
Yes.
The only reason I've heard that may not make it to Broadway and hasn't is because the cast is literally 2 people. You need an intimate stage with a big Broadway stage doesn't work, and then a lot of people are not getting jobs because you're literally only casting 2 people. That's the only thing I've heard that has stopped it.
It would be good for a black box show.
Yeah.
Like something, even like a rake stage production of it would be good. But
I think that's what stopped it. As popular as it is and as good as it is, I think that's one thing that stopped it.
for sure,
Mhm.
for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So those
And
are,
sorry.
no, I said, so those are our big two. Unless Amanda has more to say.
I do want to say though, because there are, I don't know if you guys have ever seen anything off Broadway in New York. I don't know. So I've actually got to see Avenue Q I know that's been on Broadway, but I got to see that in an off Broadway theater where it's like one big massive building with tiny theaters in it.
Yeah.
And this one building hosts multiple shows.
Oh, wow.
Because I remember that one wing of the thing was Avenue Q, and then I believe it was John Tartaglia's. It was like a fish themed musical.
Oh,
But yeah, no, but it was meant for kids. There was not kid appropriate, and then there was kid appropriate right next to each other. But Avenue Q was on my list until I was informed that it did go on Broadway.
by me.
Because I was only aware because I only ever got to see it off. So yeah.
It won Best Musical, I think, in 2003.
It beat Wicked, and I'm still salty about it.
I think it was.
It deserved it.
It deserved it. It was a big upset. Anyway, this is us getting off track. So
Sorry.
All right, now that we've complained about the main two musicals that everyone knows of their existence and still hasn't made it to Broadway, who wants to start with a musical that no one really knows what's that much about? Go, Jen.
I have two. So
I'll start with one, and then we can go around in a circle. Like you say one, then I'll say one, then she says one.
Yeah, that's fine. The first one I'm going to talk about is Mad Ones. It's an amazing musical. I listened to it fully like 3 weeks ago, and I cried. It's about a girl named Samantha Brown who's trying to navigate her senior year after her best friend passes away in a car accident. Very good show. It was off Broadway in 2013, so a long time ago. For those of you who know Mean Girls, Christina Alabato played Samantha Brown in Mad Ones. Incredible. I think it might have been her New York debut, possibly. Really good show. Very funny, very sad. But it has a very happy ending where she graduates high school and moves in with her boyfriend and promises to never forget her best friend. And if you're looking for a song from that, I play Freedom all the time. It's an amazing song.
Noted.
Yeah. So that's mine. And I think it's BS that it's not on Broadway because there's a big enough cast. I think it's like 10 people, 15 people. There's an ensemble. I know that much. Hold on. I don't know. I like it a lot.
And if anyone wants to give like super details of their musical, just say spoiler alert. And if our listeners don't listen to your spoiler alert and they keep going on and get spoiled, that's their own fault.
Yeah. Everything that I talk about, there's a spoiler alert, but it's fine. Too late.
Dang it, my second one turned out to also be on Broadway.
What? Really?
I thought it was considered off Broadway because it was in Lincoln Center, but it was.
Well, luckily I have 4 that we can go into deep detail about.
Oh boy. All right. Well. Okay.
So can I talk about my
Excuse
one
you,
that
cat. So cat just sneezed.
Can I talk about the one that I got because of issues? I'll try to find more during the episode, but I only have one.
Yeah.
Okay, go right ahead.
So because I don't know when this is going to be up, like been posted, but for people who don't know, this is like literally it's 2 days before Halloween, Monday. And when we're recording this, it's the 29th.
It is indeed.
And because that, I am in very much a Halloween mood. So an off-Broadway show that I like to listen to during this time of year is a musical called Evil Dead the Musical. It's one of my favorite Halloween horror musicals out there. Basically, for people who don't know what Evil Dead is, it is based on a horror movie that is considered a really gory horror film. Originally, and for people who don't know, it was originally done by Seth Raimi before he did Spider-Man. And it was originally meant to be like a taken seriously horror film until eventually they decided to make the rest of the sequels like a campy horror film, like make it funny. And that's what the musical is basically. Like, it's not meant to be taken seriously. It's one of those shows where if you sit in the first 3 rows, you're in the splatter zone, meaning you're gonna get blood on you. That's how bloody this show is. It's a really fun show. There have been it's only ever been off Broadway, and it was at one comedy festival in Vancouver, I believe. It was the Just for Laughs convention, and I don't remember what year it was, but basically it just lives on now as like done in like theaters, but you also need to have a theater where they don't mind you getting blood on the carpet because it will fly into the audience because that's how bloody it is. So the basic synopsis, it's about 5 college students, and you'll hear it in the opening song if you literally look it up. 5 college students who decide to go to an abandoned cabin in the woods without telling anybody for their spring break. And they think it's going to be fine. And then they find this Book of the Dead, the Necronom and Mortis, which is Book of the Dead, and an ancient dagger. Some not nice things happens to one of the girls in the woods, and she gets turned into a demon. And chaos ensues from there. And a lot of dismemberment happens on stage. It's beautiful for anyone who likes that kind of stuff. And whoever plays Ash, who's the main guy, he's like basically your final girl. But he's a very, very well-known. You have to have someone who's very good at physical comedy because he has to be able to throw himself around the stage because he's like fighting his own hand in one scene.
Oh, wow.
And he has to chop off his own hand. Yeah, he has to chop off his own hand and replace it with a chainsaw. So if anyone looks up any photos of Ash, he has a chainsaw hand. Don't mistake this version with the remake version, which is gory and disgusting, and it's an amazing horror film if you're willing to look at that. It's not the same thing. It's the same series, but not the same thing. But it got freaking sponsored by the lead actor who played Ash in the movie.
Oh wow.
He convinced the studio to let these, and it was a bunch of college students who wrote this originally, and they got the guy who played Ash to sponsor it to get the director's okay to be like, yeah, sure, you can make this into a musical, go ahead. And that's Evil Dead. Pretty much it's a splattery good time, funny, lots of cursing. If I can get that lip sync up there, that's what my lip sync's from. And I still think that Jen should play Cheryl, but hey, she's the one who gets turned into the demon first.
Yeah.
And she gets locked underneath she gets locked in a little cupboard underneath the stairs, like not the stairs, underneath the stage. Like it's literally just a trapdoor on the stage.
Oh. Jeez.
Because she gets locked in the cellar for the whole show. It's fun.
I love it. No, that definitely sounds like something I would like.
Why did I imagine Jalen playing Ash fighting his
No. Do you know who he would be? I forget the name of the character, but he would be the country guy, the one who's like, he comes in like midway through the show. I forget the name of the character, but he would not be Ash. Like, you know who I see playing Ash really well?
Mm-hmm.
One of our guy friends from college. Not going to say his name, but...
Well, you can say first names. No one's going to know from their last name. And if we're just saying who they'll play... It's not embarrassing them. It's not like something they did.
He played Jen's boyfriend in American Idiot.
Like, you can say one names. If we're complimenting them here.
I feel like he would make a really good Ash, just because I feel like he could. One, he looks like a lot like the actor who's supposed to play Ash, and 2, I don't know why, but if you really put like a lot of physical humor into it, I feel like he could do it. Because he has that right gravitas that you need to be for Ash, because you need to be super out there, but you also have to be able to like you have to say these lines with a straight face. Like there's literally the second, like I think it's like the second number in the show is called "What the was that?"
But yeah, I'm gonna say people's first names today because
yeah.
it's just their first name.
I'm gonna say people's first names too.
They'll be complimented by
Like
the
a
rules
whole-
I'm giving them.
For sure.
And Jalen, that you guys heard, is my stupid boyfriend who's back in his room right now. You'll meet him later on a history podcast because he's a history nerd.
That's the one where we're gonna gush about my favorite show.
But if we mention him, he'll be mentioned by name a lot because he's just sitting in the other room grading papers for college.
Aw, baby.
I love.
He's our little brother. Well, he's her boyfriend, but he's mine and Jen's little brother.
He's my little brother, and he is my T-Rex.
Oh, he's my Sokka.
I told you. Unedited. We go on.
Unedited. Amanda's Sokka. I'm Suki. Amanda's top. I'm Suki. Sokka's in the back room.
I'm Ty Lee. Taylor, what's your musical?
Okay, my first musical going off of horror gets us into a very weird ass horror, strange vibe as well. Our college actually did it. I think it was 2 semesters, or like the year 2 years before we came, because we do musicals every other year.
Yeah.
So that may give it away, but my first one is Bat Boy the musical.
Oh, that musical.
They did that like 4 years before we came.
I don't know. One of the kids that we were in school with was in the show because he was a Bat Boy.
So it was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago, but that's the only reason I know about it because one of our classmates who was a senior when we were freshmen played the Bat Boy.
My high school did it. Sorry.
Yeah, he was the baker when Amanda and I were in Into the Woods, I'm pretty sure.
Wait, he was...
I think he was...
Bat Boy was one of the princes.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Baker was someone else. Bat Boy I'm laughing hysterically at because of who played him.
You're right.
Wait, he played Bat Boy?
Yep.
I need to see show shots.
Yep. He did.
I found him somewhere because I was the house and box person, so I've seen all the old photos. That's where I first found out about Bat Boy. And for all of you who are wondering what this musical is, let me explain it to us here. Where is my synopsis on my phone? Okay, this is my synopsis. Bat Boy the musical was inspired by a series of headlines published in 1992 by the Weekly World News claiming that a terrifying creature, half man and half bat, had been discovered in a cave, escaped, and was being pursued by the government officials. The musical rendering of the story follows a group of people in West Virginia, and there's teenagers that discover a creature in a nearby cave who is half boy, half bat. The teenagers bring him to the town, and then he is brought to the local veterinarian, where he begins to assimilate to the human life and become a part of the Parker family. While all of this is going on, let's see what happens from there. At that point, he is living with the family. He is trying to become a human. He kind of then sounds like a fancy Englishman about halfway through. Bat Boy gets named Edgar, and the entire town is still afraid of him. He apparently is kind of, in my mind, like a vampire, because he's a bat. He sucks human blood. So things get kind of weird in that concept. And then he ends up, and then the daughter of the veterinarian ends up falling in love with him. And things get really weird and creepy. And it was already a story about a misfit and trying to accept yourself and everything. And then that's one reason I really like it. But then it gets even deeper with them not accepting the concept of her marrying him. In the entire town, a lot of people are trying to murder Edgar / Bat Boy. And everything gets weird. It's a very, very depressing ending because Bat Boy learns some things about himself, and doesn't like them. One thing I really like about it, though, is I have mentioned in other episodes that besides musical theater, I listen to a lot of punk and metal and music, very strangely, completely opposite from musical theater. But the music on this musical is very similar to, I would say, like maybe Little Shop of Horrors or something. It's theater mixed with like technical sort of rock. And that's what I've always liked about it. It's very, very dramatic and dark, so be careful if you're not into that stuff, because that boy is very, very, very shunned and very messed up in this town. And a lot of these people are very religious, so it makes it even worse. But I would die to just be stagehands on that show because I am just drawn to things that are so dark. That's why I really like the one you were talking about, Amanda.
Dark musicals are always fun.
And all of mine are either dark or depressing.
Yeah.
In some shape or form. I don't know.
What
is wrong with me?
Since you guys are talking about dark musicals, and I'm hoping, Taylor, that you don't have it.
Yeah, you guys use both of my other ones, so I only had that one.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Bat Boy the musical. Everyone go look it up. The first song, I love it.
I'm gonna talk about a fun little ditty. I don't know if you'd call it a ditty because it's kind of dark. It's based on a true story. It is called Lizzie, based on, of course, the Lizzie Borden story. It's incredible. For my first professional audition, I actually used This Is Not Love from Lizzie. Great song. Makes me cry every single time I listen to it. But it's really sad. But in the musical, you really learn more about Lizzie and her sisters. There's only 4 people in the cast, so I kind of understand why it's never been on Broadway. I think it hasn't even been off Broadway. It was actually only in Houston.
Damn.
In 2013, 2012-ish. Fantastic show. You learn that Lizzie was abused in the show. You learn that there could have been multiple people who did it in the show. I think it's a pretty long show. It's like 2.5 hours, 2 hours. But it's really good. I think it's pretty historically accurate.
Yeah. Is the style of the music more like classic Broadway or pop, or because all mine are like pop rock musicals?
Can I play you a song from it?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, go right ahead. What I'm gonna do, for everyone that is not on YouTube, sorry YouTube people, because YouTube has more copyright issues, I am going to go through Spotify and play songs before from the musicals every time we talk about one, because you can insert Spotify songs into your podcast.
All right. So you can do that, but I'm gonna do this for the
YouTubers. Yeah, you can't listen.
Yeah, sorry, YouTubers.
That sounds way up my alley.
That, I think, is sung by Bridget Borden, who I believe is the oldest sister.
No, Bridget was the maid.
Oh no, Bridget. Yeah, Bridget's the maid.
Sorry.
She opens the show. There's Lizzie, her younger sister.
No, because the crime was Lizzie, her older sister, and then Bridget, and then they're her parents.
So there's 4 people in the show.
Yeah, that's the actual, because I do know stuff about the crime. Sorry.
Lizzie musical. So Lizzie is the youngest sister, obviously. Bridget. Older sister Emma, and Alice, who's her neighbor. So those are the 4 people in the show.
Okay.
The Houston production apparently did it beautifully. If you look online, there are tons of photos, tons of videos. It makes me cry. I've listened to the full thing kind of recently because in preparation. But it's like a rock musical. I would say if you mixed American Idiot with Little Shop, I guess would be the right.
That's what it kind of sounded like.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit of more punk rock, like Panic at the Disco mixed in
Yeah,
there.
I have to listen to it because I love this.
It's incredible. This Is Not Love Will Make You Cry, because when I was practicing for the audition, I cried when I realized what it was about. Which I'm not gonna say on here because it's
Look
really
it up, people. I know the crime, but I need to see this musical.
look it up.
Right up my alley.
It goes. There is a massive trigger warning for various types of abuse for the show. I'm not going to mention what kinds because it's really bad, but it's a great show. But I understand why Broadway hasn't done it because there's 4 people. It kind of needs to be an intimate staging. They do talk about the murders. The parents are not in the show, but they do.
It sounds like there's a lot of abuse. I don't think many things would be going to the Tonys and having a huge performance about abuse.
The music is fantastic though, and I really recommend that people listen to it. Because I've listened to it like a dozen times since my audition was back in. This is October. My audition was back in August, and I still love the music. But yeah, I would say it's historical fiction, but more on the historical side. It's kind of like Hamilton, where certain things were changed.
Yeah.
But it's pretty as close as we know. Lizzie still obviously, spoiler alert, Lizzie still gets acquitted at the end of the musical. But everyone's left wondering who actually did it. And we're still trying to figure out who did it today. So, Yeah. Go for it.
So Jen, did you ever get to go, or anyone here, did anyone get to go see, because Jen's in the same state that the house is in. Have you gone to the house? Because I have.
I have not. My friend did though. And she got really creeped out because the house is haunted and they heard some noises while they were sleeping over there.
Yeah. It's funny because I feel like, Jen, I feel like you would enjoy it, but I feel like you wouldn't stay the whole night.
I would probably leave as soon as the heater started working. I pack up my stuff and I would run away. There was a guy, and I'm not going to give away too much because it's to do with our college, but it is related to the house, so I'm going to keep talking. There was a guy who came to our college who worked on Ghost Adventures.
I know who you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm gonna he's been to lots of schools within my specific area. I'm not going to say where necessarily I live just because I want to protect all the things. But he said that his group actually went to that house. They had no paranormal experiences whatsoever. But as they were leaving, the people who owned the house came back and they were like, hey, like, what gives? Like, we have tons of cockroaches downstairs in our basement on our window. And he was like, we did not open any windows. I don't know how they got there. And she was like, well, clearly someone opened a window because we have tons of huge fruit flies and cockroaches that are just migrated to the windows. And he was like, no one was in the basement. We mainly like investigated upstairs where the murders took place and where Lizzie and the maid or whoever it was escaped. So there's lots of haunts there. It's like Amanda said, I live around the area. I'm not going to say where I live because it is near my college and it is near all the theaters I've auditioned for, and I just want to keep everyone safe. So yeah, that's my second musical that ever made it to Broadway, but it's freaking outstanding and I love it. And if you live around my area, maybe we can go to the house together. It'd be fun.
I'll fly to you and we can go do it. We're staying in the room where the mom got murdered.
Oh, absolutely not. I would cry.
Just don't lay on the floor. That's where she got murdered.
Okay, I'll lay on the bed.
Or you can lay on the sofa. Either way, that's another place where he got the murder. That's where the dad got murdered.
Yeah.
Sorry. This just turned into a true crime. Sorry, off topic. That was my fault.
I mean, brought up the musical, so I think.
Hey, technically, it has to do with the musical. So
I believe it was the uncle.
I mean, I really believe that it was Lizzie and her uncle who did it together, and one killed the mom and one killed the dad. So, like, that's my personal thing.
Oh.
But I mean, we
that
don't
would
know.
make a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Amanda, do you have any others?
Okay, so during the break, because I don't know if anyone's gonna see, like, we did a break. I did do a little cheaty and look up some. So I actually found that my favorite board game, like my actual favorite board game, was turned into a musical. And it's Clue.
Clue. Such a great
yeah, no, it's a really good show. I forgot that was off Broadway. I thought it was just like I don't know what I thought it was. But basically, for people who don't know how it works, is they will bring 3 audience members on stage to pick some cards. So no one really knows. Should I just explain how the game works, just in case no one knows?
Go for it.
Okay, so basic concept of the game. I play this every weekend with my family because we play it all the time. But it's a murder mystery game. You have to find out who killed Mr. Body. Yeah, it's very, very self-explanatory. So you have to find out who did it, what was the murder weapon, and what room in the house it happened. And it's basically a deduction game. And so they basically took that and made it into a musical. And everyone has a motive and everyone has reasons. And the characters in the musical are Mr. Body, obviously. He's the murder victim. You got Miss Scarlet and Mr. Green, Professor Plum, Colonel Mustard, and Miss Peacock, I believe it is, and Miss White.
Yep.
And then the detective, who is female in the show. And basically they have to try to figure out, and the audience actually gets little sheets of paper that they can mark down so to see if they can figure out the mystery, which is actually kind of cool because even the cast doesn't know who's going to be the murderer at the end of the show. It's really cool. Yeah.
I saw it at a local community. I guess it's a professional theater now, at a local professional theater.
Okay.
It was fantastic. And the audience literally decides who the murderer is. And the way that the director of the show, who is actually a former director of mine, would tell the cast is should just go backstage and go, Mrs. White or Colonel Mustard or whatever. And then they would literally improv why they killed him. When I went, Mrs. White was the murderer. I thought it was Professor Plum, but it wasn't.
Yeah, it was Mrs. White in the billiards room with the candlestick.
I think. Well, in the show that I saw, she like killed the maid and then she like killed the host too. So it was a play, but it was still really good. And that one also never made it to Broadway. So.
But it's fun. Also, can I point out that I always thought it was funny that all the characters are named for the color that they wear?
Yeah, true.
But whenever I play, I'm always Miss Scarlet because she's blonde usually, and I'm a narcissist. I'm not, but I like playing as blonde with blue eyes. Like I've always been like that.
Yeah.
Hashtag I was a Barbie girl. Also, why do you have Frankenstein?
We're getting off topic. I got it at Six Flags. I won a darts game, and
audio people, there's a Frankenstein on screen.
I got a chunky Frankenstein.
He looks like a Frankenstein and a frog had a baby.
Yeah,
he does.
Frankenstein, and I guess they were all like out of the Frankensteins, like in the like the prize places.
Yeah.
Prize thing. So you had to like go into the back, and I got this huge chonky Frankenstein. And I was just like, okay, like.
Well, it would make sense because it was Fright Fest when you went.
My next musical is dark and depressing, but in a whole different category.
Yes.
And it is originally called Bear the Pop Opera, which was then remade into Bear the Musical. The original's better, but go check out the original. And if you're wondering why it's called pop opera, it is not opera in the traditional sense as you would think of opera, like Phantom of the Opera or something like that. The pop is there because all the music is more of a pop rock style, like everything I love, but it is called an opera, or at least the original non-remake version is an opera, because I would say about 90% of the musical is sung through, and most of the talking is worked into the actual songs. So if you ever go and listen to the album of this musical, you pretty much see the entire or listen to the entire story without missing anything in the script whatsoever. And that is one reason I am obsessed with it, because you don't need to go see it to get the full extent of it. But now that I have raved about all that, I think everyone would actually like to know what the heck this musical is about. So, well, first off, the revised version of the musical previewed off-Broadway on November 19th, 2012, and opened December 19th, 2012 at New World Stages. This was the remake, Bear the Musical, so not the one I like, but to get to the point, the musical is like an electric contemporary rock musical. It follows a group of students at a Catholic boarding school as they grapple with the ideas and issues of sexual identity and their futures and what they want to be when they grow up, and their life with religion and God. And it all centers around them actually performing in the musical version of Romeo and Juliet. It starts out with this kid named Peter, who, if you know our friends, I think should be played by Andrew, which is very strange, but it starts out with this kid named Peter, who has been very gay his whole life. Like, he used to play with his mom's makeup and liked to wear his mom's shoes, and his parents knew it, so they sent him away to a Catholic boarding school to see if that would change his well-being in life. But he ends up at school and he rooms with this guy named Jason, who is this like baseball playing hotshot that like all the girls are obsessed with, yada yada. And he ends up falling in love with his roommate, vice versa. His roommate falls in love with him, but his roommate is very like religious and has religious parents and doesn't want to come out of the closet. And that's like the overall premise of the musical, but mixed in with the idea of them being at a Catholic boarding school and confining in like the father and all that. And surrounding all of that is also the other group of kids that are here at this school with them. There is the very pretty, attractive girl who ends up playing Juliet, and then her roommate, who is supposed to be a somewhat heavier, not overweight girl, but just a somewhat heavier girl who has no confidence in herself. And she has this entire song that I'm obsessed with. That's literally, why am I forgetting the words? But it's literally about being a fat ass and how she doesn't feel comfortable with that and everything about that and so on. But the musical does get really depressing as it goes on, because Jason and Peter's relationship does get not mentally abusive, I would say, not physically abusive, as things go on. I love the music in this thing. It's right in my category of rock pop situation, and it's fairly easy to do. You don't need a huge set. You don't need all this. That may be why it hasn't made it to Broadway, because it's really nice just being like small and intimate with like a church sort of designed background, that and just like moving pillars and stuff to kind of create the scenes. But with all that, there's the two other girls. Towards the end, spoiler alert of the musical, Jason tries to get with the very attractive girl who is feeling really bad about herself and is actually in love with him, and that kind of messes everything up, and the musical doesn't go as planned. And then, without saying it, I will tell you the ending is very, very depressing. It ends with them singing one of the songs from Romeo and Juliet, the musical, about the death, but for other reasons. So go look it up. You can pretty much figure that out just by listening to the cast recording. And it focuses on topic with where am I going with this, audience? It focuses on a topic of acceptance and all this, but it focuses on a very religious version of it, and how in the end everyone, including the priest, tells them that it is okay. It's not his lifestyle, but God loves all. He may not agree with what you do, but he still loves you. And I think that is the best way to look at the situation. And that's the best thing I think you can tell someone. And as depressing as this musical is, it gives off a really good message with a really good backtrack and message. And I love how all the kids are easy to relate to because they're in high school theater. Yes, at a Catholic boarding school, but they're in high school theater.
Mm-hmm.
And cool. Yeah. And
Yep.
Even though you think this may be a show that high schoolers could put on because it's about high schoolers, this show is a lot more sexual than you would imagine.
I would say
college maybe.
Colleges, and professional theaters and community theaters, I say. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the professional theater I auditioned for did this at some point, because it is a very poignant piece, but it is very depressing. Mm-hmm. So I think everybody who auditions for that just needs to be aware that there is like underlying trauma within the show.
There's a full-on sex scene in the show, like not like nudity, but it sometimes, depending on how they stage it, can get pretty close.
It is not like a sex scene you would see in Heathers or anything like that. Like, it's close.
Let's say like it doesn't go all the way like what's that thing called again? Oh my god, Spring Awakening.
Yeah, no, it's not Spring Awakening level, because they are, even if they're not being played by high schoolers, they are still supposed to be high schoolers.
Yeah.
But they're also trying to be realistic about the whole thing.
I have one more musical that I thought of, Taylor. I'm sorry if this is your other musical. It's Zombie Prom. It's a fantastic show. Never made it to Broadway. I saw it during my senior year. Trevor is currently fighting Boba.
Yes, my two cats.
And basically what it's about is the two most popular kids get together, but then Toffee, I love the fact that her name is Toffee. Sorry. Toffee's parents say that she can't date Johnny. So Johnny, spoiler alert, himself. And the entire show, she's basically haunted by his ghost. Then there's a principal named Delilah Strict. A whole radio show talking about his demise. And in the midst of it, she's just trying to figure out life and prom and friends. It has a great ending. I mean, it's called Zombie Prom, so without giving away too much, Johnny does come back. He's a zombie. But I really think it could be good for Broadway because there is a big enough cast. It was off Broadway. There were people in their 40s and 50s in the show. It was fantastic. You know, it's not just for high schoolers. was great. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like we're in school. Okay. I want to. Was Carrie ever on Broadway?
Yes, because I wanted to talk about it so badly, but Carrie has been on Broadway.
Performances. 3.
It's so
Only
bad,
3
though.
performances?
I count it.
Hold on. Let me look up Carrie.
It has been on Broadway. I have it. We'll talk about that in full at some point.
Yeah, hold on. Let me.
Just like how another show I want to talk about, which is it turns out it was on Broadway. I did see it. I didn't know that Lincoln Center counted.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Yeah.
5 performances for the original.
5.
Yeah, it opened May 12th, 1988. Hampered by mostly negative reviews. I mean, I could kind of see why.
It's so much fun though.
It's such a great show. And despite the fact that the theater was sold out every night, the financial backers pulled their money out of the show, and it closed on May 15th after only 16 previews and 5 performances, guaranteeing its place in Broadway's history as one of the most expensive disasters ever. According to the New York Times, the more than $7 million show was the most expensive quick flop in Broadway history. So
that kind of reminds me of what happened to Beetlejuice, but that's actually coming back.
It's coming back to the marquee next year. So
it's just like Beetlejuice. It comes back. But another thing though is I want to talk about was War Horse. That one I thought was off Broadway because it was in the Lincoln Center, but it wasn't one of the bigger theaters. I do know that because me and my group were, because I went to go see it on a field trip back in high school. But damn, that show made me cry. I want to have an episode talk about that.
Yes, definitely. Does anyone else have another musical, or should I just do my last 2?
I talked about my 3.
So and I mentioned all the ones I had.
All right, then I got 2 more here. One of them I literally only have like a couple sentences of because there's really not much to it. So I guess I can talk about that one and then end with the big banger. So this is my 3rd musical now, is one called that no one's probably ever heard of. I actually heard about it on TikTok when someone mentioned it, talking about spooky musicals. And it is not even exactly a musical. It is a song cycle, which is just, as for those of you who don't know, a bunch of songs stringed together, sung by different characters out an overarching storyline. But the way they produce it, I guess they consider it a musical. And the musical, do I have the synopsis of it in here? Is called Angel Makers. Angel Makers is songs performed by female serial killers. It is a true crime adaptation of serial killers throughout history, all women, ranging from post-punk to indie rock to country and beyond. And like the overall theme of it is everyone has a chance to sing that one song, to say that one thing. So they are all there trying to say, this is why I murdered this person. And like almost defending themselves, but some of them don't give a crap about defending themselves. So they're like, yeah, this is why I did it. He deserved it. All in song form.
He had it coming.
Coming all along.
You knew I was going to do that.
All the songs are very different from each other, so it's very interesting to listen to. And it's very easy to listen to without actually being able to see it because of the concept that it's a song cycle. And there's really no clips of it anywhere on YouTube, so I've only ever listened to it. But it's very out there and different and unique, and that's what I really like about it. And even though it is about serial killers, it's not spooky. It's just kind of, they're defending themselves, so you hear about the actual crime, but there's no blood or guts or terror. She's a bunch of female serial killers being weird.
Do you know specifically who's in it? Like, not like actors, like which killers are in it.
Yeah.
Let me look up. Let's see. Angel.
And that.
Because I would love to see if Bonnie Parker was in it.
Yeah. Let me look it up.
Or like Lizzie Borden.
Yeah, let me see.
Lizzie Borden had an axe.
Took an axe.
Yeah, took an axe.
She gave her father 40 whacks when she saw what she had done. She gave her mother 41.
I found a couple people that are in this musical.
Wow.
We have Jane Toppin, who is
Okay.
a 19th century nurse.
Okay.
Eileen
Eileen? Yeah, Eileen. Yeah. She's the one with the eyebrows. She's the one that they made the movie Monster about.
I was hoping she'd be in the musical. She's really creepy.
Mary
I'll show
Bell,
my eyebrows.
Mary Bell, who is a 10-year-old.
Yeah, no, she was. No, she had her crimes were really bad. She killed a young boy and then carved her initials into him.
Yeah, it says the song is called Teeth.
Mm-hmm. So and she also did things too as not gonna say because this is like, but she did things too, not so nice things to him that is considered adult.
And then Velma Barfield. Her song is called How the Devil Sings.
Ooh.
So yeah, there's some very weird songs in this. That's why I find it so interesting.
I'm checking that out. I think I might end up with the new audition song from that.
Teeth?
No. I might try Eileen's one.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
So here, to get back on track, here is my last musical that I'm going to be talking about today. I know of others, and maybe we'll do more research and have a part 2 to this at some point.
Sorry.
Because there's a lot of off-Broadway musicals out there. But the musical I am talking about last here that I'm in love with is a musical called Alice by Heart. It is inspired by Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and was directed and co-written by Jessie Nelson, who was the writer, composer, and director and everything of Waitress. So all the music in it sounds very pop folk almost. It's very, very similar to Waitress music. And then what else was I gonna say? I got something else here. And it was also created by the Tony and Grammy award-winning creators of Spring Awakening.
Ooh.
Stephen Satter and Duncan. Those two. So I am very surprised it never, ever made it to Broadway because it had big names working with it there. Mm-hmm. But before I complain about all that, let me tell you what it is actually about, because it may be inspired by Alice in Wonderland, but it is the most unique take on Alice's Adventure in Wonderland that I have ever listened to or heard of. So it is in the rubble of the London Blitz of World War II. Alice Spencer, a budding teen's life turns upside down. Her and her dear friend Alfred are forced to take shelter in an underground tube station, along with many war misfits and war orphans because of the war, and they are stuck down there when Alfred is forced to quarantine because he gets sick from everything going on in the world. Alice encourages him and all the children and misfits. There's like a soldier with PTSD and all these people locked down in here. She encourages him to escape with her into the cherished book and journey down the rabbit hole into Alice in Wonderland, the book. So because of that, the musical is pretty much all these people trapped in the bomb shelter tube area with Alfred slowly dying. And
Got
it. So it's very depressing. But as she's reading the book to everyone there, so what ends up happening because of that is you see Alice in Wonderland as it goes in the process of the book, but it is all inspired by the people that are here inside this bunker. So it is Alice in Wonderland, but somehow Alice in Wonderland with a war spin on it. Like the characters are dressed up as war and army veterans and all that. They have guns, and there's like, it looks like army battles sometimes, like in the trial of Alice in Wonderland, or like the Queen of Hearts is more of like a war threat than the actual queen. And there's gas masks and all this stuff kind of incorporated into these normal characters from Wonderland that are now being played and mixed into this group of misfits that are all here because of World War II. So it ends up being a very, very beautiful and depressing and moving versus just being a little kid's show. Like, yes, Beauty and the Beast is a loving thing, but it's more geared towards kids. This is almost an adult take on Alice in Wonderland to an extent, making it more dramatic and almost like you're third party, because she's just reading the book. You're not actually in the world of Alice in Wonderland with these bright colors and nonsense going on. Wonderful, crazy nonsense. I love Alice in Wonderland. It is more subdued. The entire set is darker colors like you would see in most war movies. It is a very, very simple set, and it's not like huge ball gowns and top hats and caterpillar costumes. It's all kind of like built off of what these people were wearing to begin with, just kind of like added on, almost like a Storybox musical, but bigger and more. It's a big choreographed musical with dance numbers and all that, but in a beautiful and also depressing way with these big names backing it up, as you saw who wrote it. So it's been off Broadway. I forget when it was off Broadway, but it was off Broadway and not. So I'm surprised it never actually.
Let's check it out, shall we?
To Broadway. That's what kind of made me
2012.
Yeah, it was off Broadway in 2012. I was just watching something on that, and I'm wondering why it couldn't make that jump. Was it just too depressing or too weird of a concept, or did it just not get the following that it deserved?
Well, the closing date was extended from March 31st to April 7th.
It was really popular from what I read and what I've been told.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, well, it was actually only off Broadway. I made a mistake. It was off Broadway in 2019.
See, yeah, it was recent. It's more of a, because it had to have been around the time of Waitress, because
so it actually was. It was originally presented by London's Royal National Theatre in
those are amazing.
2012.
Yeah,
but it made its off Broadway at the MCC Theater in 2019 from February to April.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I was reading that it was at the MCC Theater.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's too late for it to make that jump. Usually you got to make that jump towards the beginning of the show's career, so I don't think it's going to make it, but.
I mean, Heathers made its West End jump from like 4 years after, so you never know.
You do never know.
But they also had to. They had to like rework a ton of things for Heathers too. Like they added in songs like I Say No, which I'm going to be using for an audition at some point. And they added You're Welcome. They added Never Shut Up Again, which is an amazing song. But I think some shows like their producers might not want them to make those changes. So they might be barring it from going to Broadway, knowing that it could be rewritten or reworked in a way.
Some directors may not want it to be big. Maybe, like I told you, this is a very subdued version of Alice in Wonderland because of the setting it's put in. And I don't know, I guess, if that works for Broadway, because even Waitress, who is colorful and kind of big and lots of dance numbers, but it reminds me, if anyone's seen anything of Hadestown, it reminds me very much of that setting.
But Hadestown was off Broadway.
Yeah,
Hadestown started.
Yeah, it reminds me of that setting, that color palette with Waitress type music.
Yes,
with an Alice in Wonderland inspired.
Because like, if you're saying that it's in a tube station, I mean that's like one set. Not saying that a show can't go to Broadway with just one set, but like usually when I think of Broadway shows, like the actual like big ones that actually make the jump, I usually think of shows that have like multiple sets and like have that like that kind, not glamour, but like they have that kind of like that shininess to it. That's like, hey, you know.
Yeah, like, no, it is one set. From what I've seen, you can't find much video of it. I love listening to the music, but what I've seen is it is one set. What happens and changes is tables get brought in, props get moved around so we can create scenes like the trial, for instance, or
okay, so it's very much like create the sets with what you have, like, you know, not like
it's kind of like a Storybox musical because they're trying to make it look like she's actually reading this book and they're acting it out.
Do you think they're afraid because of what happened with the last Broadway musical that took place in Wonderland, which I will want to talk about in the future?
Possibly.
That I did get to see, and I will talk about that much more in the future because I'm one of the few who actually got to see it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, as someone who loves that musical, the last Wonderland musical tanked after a month on Broadway. One singular month.
And on top of it, like it was in a fairly smaller theater. I mean, it wasn't in a big theater. Like it was in the one that's in the Marriott Hotel.
Yeah.
It's in like so if anyone who's been to New York knows that there's a hotel, it's the Marriott Hotel. It's like giant. It has like all these giant elevators and it's like so many levels. I've gotten vertigo in that hotel from the amount of times I've gone in those elevators. Like I can't look at the outside when I'm in those elevators, beside the point. So when you go in there on the bottom level, they have a theater, and that's where Wonderland was. I remember because me and my friends got lost in the hotel because we were. But yeah, like I do think though that with Wonderland itself, you have to have an audience who's aware of the source material because it's really that out there. That was the biggest problem with that other Wonderland musical. Because
that could easily happen with this.
Yeah, no, because I remember having that discussion with my friends in 2008.
I could see that easily happening with this one because it's based on the book, but it's very like we're giving inspiration from it and putting it in this war setting. So if you don't understand things like the entire song about shrinking emotionally based on the war, but also physically from Alice in Wonderland,
because she drinks the potion.
You may not know what the hell is going on.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, no, I feel like it's very niche to a Alice fan, but I feel like, because I haven't seen this show, I feel like maybe if they actually did tell the story to the audience, like, okay, kids, let's listen to the story of Alice in Wonderland, but it's still in a dark setting. I feel like it would work a lot. But I feel like from what you're describing, it's really up my alley. But I feel like it'd work best as a black box kind of thing.
Most likely.
In a more intimate theater.
It would have to be a more intimate theater from what I've seen.
That's what I feel. That's what I feel about a lot of the shows we talk about.
Yeah, it is bigger than a black box because of the way it's choreographed, but it's not. It's supposed to be intimate because of the whole setting it's put in. But yeah, I think that's the problem with most of the musicals we are talking about. They need to be in a smaller setting. Bear, the pop opera, definitely a smaller, more intimate setting because of the concept. Same with Alice by Heart. Bat Boy, on the other hand, I don't know why that's not an intimate theater. I don't think that's a
No, Bat Boy
huge,
could
ginormous
definitely
thing.
be done.
Bat Boy could definitely move to Broadway, but Heather's
Like-
could easily move to Broadway. But the rest of
Like,
the ones we're
yeah.
talking about,
Like Evil Dead, you have to do it in a theater that has concrete floors
Yeah.
and removable chairs, like plastic chairs, because you can't do this in a traditional theater, because then you're gonna get a bunch of theater owners angry at you. That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah.
That's why
but
that's
also-
never made it to Broadway.
But it's made to Broadway in my heart.
I feel like a lot of these have made it to Broadway in our heart.
Yes, all I've been doing is listening to this stuff. I listened to Bear over and over and
Yes.
over again recently. I may be being ignorant, but I don't even know why the it's called Bear.
Is there any bears in it?
No,
It's BARE.
I know, I'm just trying to be funny, okay?
No,
I
I'm so
thought you were
dyslexic that-
serious. I'm sorry.
No, years ago, this is gonna be wrong. Sounds so wrong, but years
Oh, God.
ago, before I actually looked into it, I thought it was Bear as in a gay scenario because the whole musical is supposed to be about the two gay lovers, and
Okay.
if
I
you
mean, that's
watch it,
justified.
It
neither
is
of
very
Right.
justified.
neither of them are bears.
I know some
No.
bears, but that's a different story.
Oh
They could be played by
my.
them, but they're not. But that's where my brain was at first.
All right.
Also, have there been any and also, can we mention some shows that never even made it to off Broadway?
Yeah, no, exactly. I don't think.
I mean, my Lizzie one never even made it to
Yeah.
off Broadway.
I think all the
Really?
ones I
Yeah.
said made it to off
Lizzie, hold on. I want to say it was somewhere in Texas.
Okay.
Hold on. I have my acting resume up because I was working on it earlier.
Ooh.
I'm going to be discussing that during the audition.
Next
stuff.
week.
Next week with our friend.
Yes.
Oh God. Oh jeez.
I think all mine made it to off Broadway, but I could be
Alright.
wrong.
Oh, this is where I ordered my sheet music for my audition. All right, that
So-
is not what I need.
When Jen's looking, can I
Um,
mention one?
Yeah, go right ahead.
So the one that I personally love that I want to make it to Broadway so bad. It's only
Yeah.
ever been, I think it's only ever been in the Paper Mill Playhouse, which is in New Jersey for people who don't know.
Amazing.
Ever After.
Yes.
One of my-
please.
One of my audition songs is from that musical. It's a song called Who Needs Love. It's
Yes.
my audition song. Yeah, and I dream to be Danielle, or I can be one of her sisters. I don't care. But it's so amazing. And I actually love the fact that they turned a not magical version of Cinderella into a musical, because there's the other versions where, yes, it's they have the Rodgers and Hammerstein version, and you have Disney's, but it's I'm not gonna lie, out of all the adaptations that aren't Disney, Ever After as a movie is the best Cinderella adaptation I know of.
Yes.
It might not be historically accurate, but it is. And also I would just love to see and also that song, it's the one between her and the prince when they first meet, or not when they first meet, when they first meet her as a contest, which is my cousin's cousin. And it's so funny. That's what I like about that musical, because whoever plays Danielle has to be able to be a strong leading lady, but she also has to be funny.
See, I love
And
that.
yeah, you need a girl who can both carry a show and be a comedic and do comedy bits.
I just love that you're talking about comedy. Everything I've mentioned today is dark and depressing.
I'm trying to insert some comedy in there. Let me see. There's also Hunchback. That's dark and depressing.
Yes. No, that was almost on my list.
Yeah, Hunchback is amazing. I, to this day, am still mad that I never made it. The version of Quasimodo's Out There is my favorite. I love the movie.
That was so close to being on my list, by the way.
It's amazing.
So
and
good.
Patrick Page as Frollo is amazing.
My friend actually played Quasimodo at a professional theater in Rhode Island.
Ooh.
And he posted some of his out there. Made me cry. So if you're watching this, I love you and you're incredibly talented and I miss you. We were in Drowsy at a local community theater that I'm a part of, and he's very talented and a very kind person. So if you're watching,
it takes a lot to do Quasimodo. So good job.
And he follows our podcast, so that's why I was saying that. Yeah, he does.
But one thing I want to point out though is in the opening and in the closing, at least in the taping I saw, it starts off with Quasimodo coming on normal, and then he puts on the hump, like when they say what makes a monster and what makes a man, he puts on the hump and then he has like face paint on his hands.
Yeah.
And he and then at the end of the show, he also takes it off after Quasi dies, but then everyone else in the cast puts the makeup on their face.
Oh, wow.
And that gave me chills. That gave me chills. So I'm like, because they say it, what makes a monster and what makes a man.
And some of them put the hump on, and some of them put the makeup on.
They go, what is a monster? What makes a man? Yeah, because he does it above the brow and he does it under his lip.
Oh, wow.
If you go on YouTube, you can go see the actual production in California.
And the one on Paper Mill Playhouse, their version's also on there. That's the one I'm talking about.
I saw the one in California, and on one of the YouTube videos for the one in California, that is the cast recording. There's actually someone who was in the choir for that specific performance who commented on the YouTube video. And she was like, it's one of the best performances I've ever done. I love it. She was like, as someone in the choir, you need to understand how powerful it was for all of us. It's an amazing show. Yeah, by the way, Lizzie was in Houston at the Tuts Center.
Okay.
So that's the recording that you hear. But Hunchback is incredible. Also, I'm really mad that Tangled has not been on Broadway yet.
It's on the cruise ships.
If they can make an ice storm on a Broadway stage, they can have someone climb up hair.
They figured it out. They do it on the cruise ships.
There you go.
They wrote original songs. They wrote original songs for it.
I mean, I'm waiting for the day where it's announced that Tangled's on Broadway. Frozen was on Broadway. If not for COVID, it would probably still be on Broadway.
It's on tour now.
If Frozen
it's on tour now
to Broadway, why can't we get Hunchback? Why can't we get Tangled?
I feel like for Hunchback, there are some things that would need to be reworked, just like spacing wise. But Moulin Rouge finally made it to Broadway after years.
I know.
So
I was so happy when I saw that.
I feel like if Moulin Rouge can make it to Broadway after however I watched the music. I watched the movie a long time ago. I forget when it came out, like 10 years, 15 years after the movie.
Wait, the movie? Oh yeah, no, it came out 10 years after the movie because they did add songs that were not even existent when the movie came out.
Yeah,
like
I feel
Chandelier.
Yeah, I mean, but I feel like if Tangled can take some of the songs from, I almost said the tour, from the
Crucible. It's the Crucible.
The Crucible, thank you.
Yes.
And rework them maybe a little bit for Broadway, and then keep some original songs. Like if I Have a Dream is not in there, I'm a throw hands.
So I've seen the musical. Like it's on YouTube. Like guys, if you guys want to watch the Crucible, it's on YouTube. All of Disney's Crucicles are on YouTube.
Yeah.
But base is the taping that they show in the rooms. I've never been on the cruises, but I have friends who've been on the cruises. And it opens up with a number called Flower of Gold.
Ooh.
And it started off with Flynn. Like he like comes in on like a rope. Like he does.
Of course
in the movie.
He does.
And he's like, this is how I died.
I love him.
And the guy, I know for a fact, as I don't really remember who knew him, but I do know someone who knows the guy who plays Flynn in the video.
Yeah.
Also, can I mention that they made Toy Story into a musical?
Yeah,
they did.
No, now that you're mentioning this stuff, it brings me to one of my favorite Disney musicals that would never make it to Broadway just because it's so weird and is only at the parks. but I'm obsessed with Finding Nemo the musical.
Can I tell you something? They're actually reworking it right now. It's currently not around. They're reworking it right now.
I know need a full-length, 2-hour version of Finding Nemo the musical.
Can I point out that the people who wrote the Finding Nemo music wrote Avenue Q?
Oh, wow.
They did indeed.
They also wrote Frozen.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, it's the Lopez's. But the thing is, with that musical, with the theme park musical, because you're saying this, I've seen it so many times. It's not even funny. I want to play Nemo because she's in my range because Nemo's played by a girl. But you have to be able to puppeteer to do in that show.
True, that is the thing.
Yeah.
Because they have some huge puppets like Mr. Ray, my god.
Mr. Ray is attached to a bike.
Well, yes, true.
The only big puppets that are the hand puppets that I remember are the sharks.
Yes.
Everything else is either puppeteer, because the sharks have to be puppeteered by two people. The person who does the singing for them, and then the person who's operating the tail.
Exactly. That's half the reason it would never make it to Broadway.
Is it weird that I actually know how to operate the puppets? So top is mouth, bottom is eyes. Because when I went one time, the woman who played Dory, she came out and she talked to some of the guests, I guess.
Yeah.
And I asked, how do you operate the puppet? Can I see how you operate it? And also, not to mention also on the crucicles, there are so many crucicles, it's not even funny. But in the Tangle crucicle, they actually kiss during I See the Light. They don't almost kiss, they kiss.
Yay!
So I dare everyone to look up. It's called Villains Tonight.
Yeah.
It's fabulous. If you ever wanted to see, it's basically the villains, Hades is trying to prove that he's a good villain. I want an episode just to talk about this.
Yeah.
I can talk about this stuff all day. And there is a YouTuber out there. He already has talked about this.
Yeah.
His name's Disney Dan. And I listened to his podcast with Dallin, who is offhand Disney. They released a new episode today, so I watched it. It's called Foolish Mortals. I want them to make a Haunted Mansion musical. Yes!
That would be cool.
Sorry, long story short, we're all Disney fans.
So guys, this brings us to the end of our podcast here today. Thank you for listening about all these musicals, and I hope you go check them out. We really want you guys to listen to all of them. Give us your feedback below. Tell us what your favorite musicals that never made it to Broadway are. Tell us what you liked about these. And next week, come and meet our very first guest, Jalen, as he helps us take an historical dive into the musical Hairspray, one of my favorite musicals of all time. Bye!
Musical theater.
The good,
the bad,
and the ugly.